actually a rather reserved and quiet person.
We've done the thing.
We've done the thing. We did the stuff. We've been in it and out of it and through it and all up in it.
That's a lot of doing.
Ever going to meet Fran Drescher? I'm just not. Okay.
You fucking alien.
I knew that's the
I knew that was gonna happen. I've just been waiting for it.
online
Damn.
shuffleboard. You're gonna get your ass beat by my old cane having ass.
He just make eye contact with the family. Is like, I'm gonna shit on that.
All right. Cool beans. Hello, everyone. Hello. How you guys doing out there? How you doing?
Hello.
All right.
Every time I hear that intro, it makes me so happy.
It does too. I was smiling from ear to ear. I love hearing that.
Me too.
Hello, anybody who's listening for the very first time. Whether you're listening live here on Twitch or you are tuning in on Spotify. My name is Foggy LeBeau. This is my best friend, Morgan Coffee Bean.
Hello, I'm the best friend, Morgan Coffee Bean.
And welcome to the Coffee Lounge. Basically, this is a podcast where me and my lifelong best friend, Mr. Morgan Coffee Bean.
That's me.
Yep, we talk about whatever we want to, and we do what we want.
We do what we want when we want to.
Yep, absolutely. And what we want right now is more coffee.
Actually, I do need more coffee. I made a cup of coffee earlier this morning before we started, and oh man, my God, man, I make a good cup of coffee now. Like before, it was pretty mediocre, but now I'm just like, 3 more, please.
Yeah, I'm saying like my coffee is really good, and I drink it too fast, and I end up like, wow, I really need more coffee.
Like even my brother, I made a cup of coffee for my brother the first night when we both moved into the same place because we live together now. And he took a sip of it and he was like, what does it taste? Wait. Ooh. Like,
oh no, when he hits you with the more than the one ooh.
Yeah. And so every now and then he'll just come up and he's like, brother, can you make me a cup of coffee?
That's awesome. We love it. We love to see it. So as I said before, we are doing this live on Twitch. You can catch us at Foggy LeBeau or Morgan Coffee Bean? Morgan _ Coffee Bean? Is it?
Yes.
For Twitch? Okay. You can catch us both there, or you can catch us on Spotify at Morgan and Foggy in the Coffee Lounge. So this episode is going to be a little bit different because once again, like I said, we're live on Twitch. So we're going to be interacting with the chat, as well as talking about the topic at hand. So yeah, this is the agenda for the day.
And a bit of a trigger warning, or like a content warning, I suppose, might be a better way to say it. Is we are going to be talking about religious trauma that both of us have gone through and how it's affected our childhood and now our adult lives, or like what we've done to kind of cope and overcome that, or basically the effect that it's had on our life, both past and present.
Yes.
Some of it is kind of heavy and might be uncomfortable for some people, especially if you yourself have gone through it. So just as a bit of a precursor to the topic, like to the discussion, that's kind of your warning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Please listen at your own discretion. You know, we don't want to be the cause of anybody's source of uncomfortability or anything like that, but it is a topic that doesn't get talked about a lot, and we both agree that it's something that does need to be kind of put out there and talked about and addressed, because it affects a lot more people than I guarantee than either of us even know.
Absolutely.
And so it's just something that we wanted to talk about and just kind of lay out and have a discussion, because it's affecting a lot of people. And that's kind of the point of the podcast in the first place is, if we can help people, we want to do that.
Yes. And one more thing, in no way are we bashing religion or any kind of beliefs or practices.
No.
We are only talking about our own personal experiences. So don't take any of this as like an attack on religion or any kind of religious practices.
No.
Or beliefs. This is only coming from our personal experiences, our history, our past, and what we have personally gone through.
Yes. And so the first thing I want to do is just kind of outline what it is that we go through. I want to read this what's a word? This article, and just kind of put I can kind of hear myself in the background. Can you guys hear like a double take? I feel like I can hear myself.
I'm not hearing a double take.
It's weird. I can't figure it out. Yes, Jack can hear it. Do you have my stream pulled up?
I do, yes.
Okay. I don't know why I can hear myself a little bit. It's really annoying me though.
Oh.
It's slightly delayed. Exactly, yeah. It's like
interesting.
three seconds behind me.
Gotcha. Let me try muting you on my side.
Yes, do that.
Like just the stream, I mean.
Yeah.
See if that fixes it.
Yeah, do that.
All right, it's done.
I'm talking, testing. Hello.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Let's just keep testing. I'm gonna test and talk and test. I'm gonna talk and walk and drive and text and test and text. All at the same time. Oh, wow. I still kind of heard it. What the heck? Hold 6, switching to headphones. This is weird.
Oh, Jack said it's gone now. Maybe it was me.
Nope.
Am I the problem?
No, I can definitely still hear it. That's weird. Test, testicles. Ickles.
I love you.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know why. Is it because my mic is loud? I don't know. It needs to stop though. I don't like it. I don't know.
Well, he says it's gone.
I cannot figure it out. Okay, well, anyways, nope, I can still hear it and it's driving me insane. Let me see.
This is gonna be the start of Foggy's villain arc.
It is. It's gonna be I need it to go away. Let me.
Now it's there again. Interesting. Okay, so maybe it's something in the volume mixer. Do you have? No, because you have a pretty simple volume mixer setup.
Yeah. You talking about the volume mixer, like for my computer?
In OBS.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Volume. Oh, you know what I bet it is? Hold up. I bet you I already know. Where is my mic? Oop. I bet that'll help. Hold on. I think I've done it. Have I done it? Did I do it? Is it done? And is it done the thing and the stuff and is it good? I think I might have done it because I don't hear myself now.
All right, cool.
I had forgotten to put my my noise suppression back on.
Oh, that's probably what it was. Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay. No double sound now. Wonderful.
Perfect.
Okay. No, I was not going to sit here and listen to my own voice keep coming back at me and slapping me in the face the entire stream. That was not going to happen.
All right. Well, I'm glad we figured it out.
Yes.
So you said you have an article.
Yes. So I'm gonna read this article, basically like a Cliff Notes version of it, just so because it would take way too long to read this whole thing. It's huge, but I wanted to kind of go into, what we went through as kids, and then we can just kind of talk about our own personal experiences, and kind of how we overcame that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. By that logic, I'm going to turn this down just a hair. There we go. All right. Perfect. Okay. So, I guess I'll go over kind of what we're talking about specifically. Okay. So the thing is, and I know you guys saw the title already, so you already know we're going to be talking about religious trauma syndrome, right? Religious trauma syndrome is a condition that manifests in a variety of ways, okay? It occurs when a person's religious experience is stressful, degrading, dangerous, abusive, or damaging. Traumatic religious experiences may harm or threaten to harm someone's physical, emotional, mental, sexual, or spiritual health and safety. Okay. So that is the actual textbook definition of what religious trauma and kind of what religious trauma syndrome is. It's a mental health condition. And symptoms of RTS include confusion, depression, anxiety, trouble making decisions, low self-esteem, perfectionism, and guilt. Morgan, do you happen to... What do you think about those symptoms? Anything hitting home?
Maybe a little. It's yeah, there's so much to this. It's kind of hard to find like where to start, but yes, those symptoms are that's exactly what happens with religious trauma. It's it's much lesser now than it used to be.
Absolutely.
But every now and then, I think it's because now that I'm aware of it and I'm much more comfortable in my own skin, I'm able to I'm more self-aware. So if I start falling back into old patterns, I'm more able to recognize that. But it's still, it's crazy to think about how much it still affects you even after, like, even when you're not thinking about it, when you're so far removed from that world, it's insane how much that it still affects you, because like it gets ingrained with you. Like one thing that, well, I'll talk about that later, but yes, those symptoms, those are accurate.
yes, absolutely. I can certainly tell you that besides the upbringing that I already had that was very abusive, the religious trauma on top of that did not help.
Yeah.
And it made me rather a conflicted youth, very, very depressed and anxious, and I had very low self-esteem. So yeah, I can honestly say those symptoms really hit home as I was reading them. I was like, no, not me having all of this at one point or another.
Couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me.
Religious trauma, we don't know her.
No. Trauma? I don't even know her.
My God.
Okay. But moving on. So the article is actually stemming off of a 4-episode docuseries, and I was telling Morgan about this before we started. So basically, it talks about this 4-part docuseries that was it's rather new, and it came out on I believe HBO Max, an investigation discovery. So it's called Let Us Pray, a ministry of scandals, and the pray is spelled like PREY, like let us prey upon, like something preys upon like a victim.
Right.
So it's definitely there's obviously wordplay in that for a reason.
It's basically like let us hunt.
Right, exactly. So the 4-part docuseries follows the stories of sexual abuse survivors within an independent fundamental Baptist church movement. Okay. This movement is made up of about 6,000 congregations with about 8 million members. So not a small movement at all. I mean,
no.
It's all across America, all across the world, really. I mean, there's missionaries everywhere that are independent fundamental Baptists, and certainly we. So anybody who doesn't know already, when I say that Morgan is my best friend, my lifelong best friend, that's not an exaggeration. I mean, we've known each other for more than 2 decades now.
Yeah.
And we grew up in the same. You know what? I'm going to call it what it is. We grew up in the same cult.
Yeah.
And this cult were the Independent Fundamental Baptists, IFBs. We're going to call them IFBs because it's easier to say than Independent Fundamental Baptists every single time.
Yeah.
We grew up in one of those congregations. So this stuff is going to not only apply to every, survivor of that kind of stuff, but it genuinely applies directly to mine and Morgan's lives because we literally grew up in this. So us talking about it is really us talking about ourselves and about what we've gone through and about what people we know have gone through. So that's why we're saying it's a really heavy topic, and maybe something that one of y'all have gone through, that are listening, and maybe it can help to know that to know that you're not alone in having gone through it. So
exactly, I was just thinking about that because not only we want this talk to be helpful. Not only it's good to talk about it because it's good to acknowledge things that have happened, and to talking about things is a way to help yourself process events or feelings and thoughts. But it's also very beneficial because I grew up not expecting anybody else to have gone through what I went through. It was a very 50-50 situation where half the time I felt like nobody else has gone through this, so I can't really talk to anybody about it.
Yeah.
But also the other half of the time I've been thinking was oh, well, this is normal. I'm my situation, my experiences, that's nothing special. That's nothing unique. This is something that everybody goes through.
Right.
So it felt very, it felt like such a common thing that everyone went through, but also very isolating at the same time.
Yes. So, let me go about over the history a little bit of IFBs and kind of what they what they are. So, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who get it confused. The difference between an IFB or a Baptist or a Southern Baptist, or those things. A lot of people think, okay, well, that's all the same thing. A lot of people think, oh, well, that's the same, the same religion. Mm-hmm. When in all actuality, it's not the same. And I know plenty of good, decent people who are Baptist, who do not think or act or live like an IFB, and they're very, very, just decent folk. So that's definitely something to take into account.
No, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So IFBs can be traced back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries as a reaction to modernism and theological liberalism. They feared that were seeping into the National Baptist denominations, okay? So a man named J. Frank Norris started the Fort Worth, Texas-based World Baptist Fellowship in 1933, while the Baptist Bible Fellowship International began in 1950. Many churches simply exited the Southern Baptist Convention without joining any other fellowships and identified themselves as IFBs, Independent Fundamental Baptists. Excuse me. Let's see. So, the first thing that it kind of goes over is, kind of what IFBs stand for, right? So the first thing is sacralizing male power, right? So at some point in every documentary, about church abuse, there has to be an illustration of hierarchy with men being positioned over women and children.
Yep.
You'd think we'd eventually start to notice a pattern.
You'd think so.
So the Independent Fundamental Baptist is a man's world, is what I can't really say this. Skarzinski is what she says. Men are the only ones able to have positions of power. Men are the only ones that are allowed to preach, and that is something that's very true.
Yep.
Yes, women do not have roles of power in the IFB world. They are very, very much what's a word? What's a good second-class citizens?
Pretty much. No, like they are there, like in every church I have gone to, and this is I've gone to, like, I'm not even exaggerating, literally hundreds and hundreds of churches. Mm-hmm. That was part of what my family did, is we traveled around to churches, and these were all IFB churches, and every single one of them, they held the belief that women's sole purpose was to serve men.
Yes, and that's not a funny haha. It's not women haha. They just need to be barefoot and pregnant. Like, they literally believe that.
They take it very seriously.
Yes, and women who were not, who would not kind of like put themselves down into that place, that category, would be essentially excommunicated from the church. I mean, they would be absolutely shamed, yep. And called a whore, called whatever, in order to put them down, essentially put them in their place, if you will.
Yep, it basically became a witch hunt. Like way back when, like in the Salem witch trials, they would find any excuse to call people witches. It's like, oh, this person can read, they must be a witch. This person is being independent, they must be a witch. Right. That's basically what it was, or what it is like in the IFB churches. Absolutely. Where if a woman does not submit to a man, it's like, oh, you're not submitting to me? Like I'm a man, you're not submitting to me? Oh, well, you must hate God, therefore you cannot be in our company. You right. Get thee hence, Satan.
Get thee hence, yes. So, yeah, I mean, men are put on pedestals, especially the ones who are in like positions of power. So you're talking about like You obviously your pastor, your deacons, anybody who holds like an official position in the church, is going to have, they're going to be put as if they're larger than life, and that is very true. We've seen that 100 million times. They act as though they can do no wrong. So male power, in the IFB world, that's the standard. Stay at home wives, stay at home daughters. Your father, in a sense, owns you until he hands you off to your husband when you're married. And
women are property.
I was gonna say, I will say, I'm not gonna sit here and say that we had the worst of it, because you know what, females in the IFB world got really, really shit on.
Yep. No, they did. It was like I can't imagine what it would be like growing up as a woman in an IFB church, right. Because they women are literally treated like they're property. Like you belong to, like if you're a woman, you belong. They treat you like as if you belong to your father until he hands you off to belong to another man, which is your husband.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. You were owned by men in the IFB. That's just what it is. So this next one, oof. Morgan, you ain't ready. Okay. So the next bullet point is seducing children with excitement. Okay. So adults understand if a stranger invites you into their van by luring you with candy, then it's time to run away. But what if a pastor invites you into his church bus by luring you with excitement? So the person in the docuseries says our bus captain had us going door to door to witness. He would say, Amanda, do whatever it takes to get those girls on the bus. Sometimes we'd have a goldfish and we'd entice the kids by saying, hey, if you come on the bus, we're going to have people swallow the goldfish live. Tell me that is not. Oh my God.
No, that is so true. To be honest with you, I had completely forgotten about this aspect of it. But yeah, like for churches, there's a bus route that churches have, specifically for like Sunday mornings, like to pick up children. And if kids are not actively going to church, what they will do is they will try to make getting on the bus, like going to church like this, like just getting on the vehicle to go to church. They will try to do whatever they can to entice children to come on there by having like there's this fun event going on the bus. Like we're handing out free candy. We are having this, like what Foggy was saying, like if you come on the bus, you get to see someone swallow a goldfish live. There's this or that going on the bus.
They make it very event oriented.
Right, and it's just to get people to get on the bus so that they can take them to church.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
God, I'd forgotten about that. Oh,
the same.
Oh, no.
The same. Morgan, I was literally, as I was reading it, I was like, oh my God.
I can't believe,
this literally happened to us.
I'm actually kind of shocked. I can't believe that I didn't remember why. Right.
Okay.
I'm legitimately a bit flabbergasted.
Right? I'm telling you. You know how many times I've been on a church bus and just packed down with kids from all over the state. Just oh God, no. I really, really hated reading that. That was tough.
Wow.
So So the next bullet point, go just moving forward. Okay, we're gonna get through it. Silencing and subordinating women and children. So,
Yep.
Once women and children agree to walk through the doors, they are quickly placed in their positions of silence and subordination below men on the hierarchy. The Let Us Pray shows Hyle's successor, Jack Shop, saying, "The reason your sorry soul's going to hell is because a woman told Adam what God thinks about things. I wouldn't get my theology from a woman." End quote.
My God. No, yeah, like in these churches, the only people who women are allowed to talk to about religion, about scriptures, about beliefs, or like any position of teaching, the only people who women are allowed to basically talk to about their beliefs are other women and children. That's it. They are like, if a woman were to get up and start trying to teach, is like, hey, I read this passage in the Bible and this really spoke to me, or like this meant a lot to me, this made me think of this or that, to men, she would be rushed off stage. She would be she would be cut
the microphone. Cut the microphone.
Men would and I've seen this happen before, like several times. Like this sounds very dramatic, and like it's being painted in this really like, what's the word? I guess dramatized light.
Right, yeah.
But I've seen this exact thing happen several times, because again, like I've been to hundreds of churches. Foggy has seen this, but where a woman gets up because she literally just wants to share something that she got excited about that she read in the Bible or something.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she does, because there's men in the area and they see that as her preaching at them or teaching them, they will rush her away. They will try to do everything they can to silence her immediately.
Yes.
It's like, no, like, you're a woman, you can't be doing this.
And I will tell you this as well, something in my experience, and I know in your experience as well, they'll be okay with a woman being like a Sunday school teacher, just basically doing teaching little kids and watching the little kids, basically, so that they, because they don't want the kids and the women to be listening to the pastor directly. They're not good enough to listen to the pastor. So they'll put them off into a separate part of the church to watch the kids, because the men can't be bothered to watch their kids.
Right.
So
it's a babysitting role.
Right. This is absolutely it. This is so exactly it. So moving forward, you're going to love this. So Michael Easter, the pastor of People's Baptist Church in Folkestone, Georgia, adds, quote, "It'd be a good idea when your wife starts that, I just don't like this, I just don't like that, for you to turn around and look her right in her God-given eyeballs and say, shut your mouth, just shut up." End quote. No, stop. The cringe is ungodly. The cringe is out of this world. It's alien.
See,
let me go ahead and let me go ahead and walk up to Sylvie right now and just tell her to shut her mouth while she's just talking to me.
Like, oh, you have an opinion?
Yeah. Yeah. Sylvie would uppercut me down the stairs.
Nope. I would actually, part of me wants you to do it just because I want to see Sylvie do that, like, to somebody. But well, you don't do it. Go get somebody else to do it, and then record it and send it to me. That way I can clap for her.
Yes, absolutely. So, as if it wasn't enough to silence their own IFB wives and daughters in the church and home, they also want to silence and subordinate all women by excluding them from the workplace and the polls. Stephen Anderson, pastor of Faithful Word Baptist Church, asks, "What do you think they mean when they say women's rights? You know what they mean." What? End quote.
You know what they mean.
What if... What? Oh, he answers. Hold on, he answers. He answers what they mean. He answers, oh, you're gonna, oh my God. Okay. Quote, the right to rebel and disobey your husband, the right to divorce him, the right to go out and get a job and make your own money, the right to tell him what to do, the right to go vote for our leaders as if women should have any say in how our country is run. End quote. Yep. This is the people that would lead us as children.
Yep. It's funny that you say, like, in the quote, like, they just outright say, like, women can't have an opinion on how the country is run, because the whole in America there's this whole thing, you know, separation of church and state. IFBs, they say that they're perfectly fine with that as long as it lines up with their beliefs, but they absolutely do not respect that. It's a double standard. Whereas, like, it's wrong for any other religion to be involved in the way the country is run, but they believe that they have the God-given right to determine how everyone lives their lives in America.
Yes, because they say the U.S. is a Christian nation that was founded on Christian principles, when in all actuality, when you look at history, America, or I don't say America, I like to say the U.S. The U.S. was founded upon just as much upon freedom from religion as it was freedom of religion.
Right.
So it was founded on freedom of religion, as long as the religion is the one we like. Adult women are treated as children, and neither have a voice. Neither one of them. Ooh, that one was tough too. That was tough to get through. That was like the cringe factor alone was tough.
Yeah. So the way that the how do I want to say this? The sermon structures for in the churches that I've gone to work is there is a Sunday school. Like, there's the very first class teaching sermon, like, lesson. Let's say.
That's a good way to say it.
And the very first one usually starts around like 9 a.m. or so. The children have their own, the women have their own, and then the men have their own.
Yes.
Like the adults. Like boys and girls, like the children, boys and girls, they're all in the same Sunday school, but then the adult women have their own, and then the adult men have their own. So they're all separated. And this is something that these churches put a great deal of importance on, is separation. After this, the first Sunday class, they have a second one where they kind of get everybody together for the second lesson. And then this is around like 10:30. And then finally at around noon or so is when that ends. And then they all get together for the third and actual like full congregation, like the full church lesson. So like you get three little sermons, three classes or lessons every single Sunday morning. And in most churches, they will have another sermon on Wednesday. And then they'll have this other thing called soul winning on usually it's on Saturdays, like Saturday mornings or afternoons. But soul winning is basically where you go door to door. It's like, think Mormons, you know, like how Mormons go like door to door and knock on it, like, hey, do you have time to talk about Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? This is what IFBs do, but they call it soul winning. And you get major props in the church if you're able to convert somebody or even get somebody to start coming to church with you, because it means you won a soul. That's like God saw that you're going to get rewards because you invited this person and they actually wound up coming.
I had completely blocked soul winning out of my life. And the fact that you just brought it up and unlocked certain feelings in me. I was creepy. Like, oh no, it is. When you look back on it, oh gosh, it's so creepy. It's so creepy. You walking into like just people whom you do not know. It doesn't matter. Apartment complexes, you know, out in the sticks, out in the boonies, you walking up to people's houses and knocking on their door.
also, a lot of the times whenever people go soul winning, they will oftentimes take children with them and then send them to be the one to knock on the door or to like initiate the interaction, because
to disarm them.
Right, because they're gonna be much less likely to slam the door in the child's face or tell them to fuck off because it's a child.
Right.
So if a child goes up there and starts the interaction, then that kind of opens the doorway for the adult to come in and carry on.
Yeah.
And I remember there were so many stories about people getting up behind the pulpit, like on the platform, and talking about their soul winning victories. About like there's this one story in particular that's always stood out to me, and every time I've thought about it, I'm like, that's just so creepy. That's so incredibly messed up. Mm-hmm. But he would always talk about this one interaction where he went down this country road. He found this house, and there was this middle-aged guy who had literally just finished building his house. He bought this land, built his house, and he was just starting his adult life on his own. And the first 5 times this guy went, and this was like soul winning again, but this guy, he went to this house every single Saturday and would just go there, talk to this guy. And every time the guy would tell him, it's like, I'm not interested. I don't want to have anything to do with you or your religion. I don't want to go to church. I'm not interested. Please go away and leave me alone. And this guy said that finally, over the course of several months, it took about 8 months, but finally, after giving him all these Bible verses and talking to him about Christianity and the Lord and how he wants to save his soul, he finally relented and decided to come to church. And now he's so-and-so, and he pointed in the congregation and he's right there. And he's finally he's been in this church now for like 5 years, and he's basically talking about how he whittled somebody down who like several times said, I'm not interested.
He fucking
go
harassed
away,
him.
Leave me alone. Yeah, he literally broke him down over the course of several months and finally wrangled him into coming to the church, and where he's now been for several years. It's scary.
It is.
It's so messed up.
It is. Yes, I mean, I've seen it. I remembered all the stories like that. Oh, this person was this. Imagine. Hey, hold up. Hangry said, imagine bragging that you broke someone down that far.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally what it is. I broke his spirit. Oh my gosh. Okay, so next bullet point. We're gonna move on. Yes. Okay. It's absolutely entrapment, it's manipulation, it's trespassing, it's all of that stuff. I agree, Jack. Oh, man. Okay. So the next bullet point is secluding church members and churches. Now, we've talked about this before in other episodes where IFBs are completely independent from needing any type of outside help. Like they're completely self-sufficient, completely, you know what I mean? Like they don't need anybody to help fund them or to help. They are definitely a very well-oiled machine that just, they can keep themselves going.
Right.
So it says, because the churches are independent entities, the senior pastor is accountable to nobody outside of his church walls. Each church is an isolated silo, with its members falling in line under the authority of the men and ultimately the pastor. Yet, like the new apostolic reformation, the senior pastors of the IFB are a highly networked circle of independent institutions. And I've seen that. You know that all the pastors, like the senior pastors, they talk. So when one of their staff members commits sexual abuse, the senior pastors have the network in place to shuffle the abusers around without notifying any authorities. And I have seen that as well. That is absolutely the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They can...
It's basically a way to keep their people from being painted in a negative light,
Mm-hmm.
but they shuffle them around so that they don't have to face any consequences.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, this one's starting to, like this one's been in the fire a little bit too long. He's starting to turn a little red hot. Let's take him out of the fire. Let's put him over here. Let him cool down for a bit.
Yeah.
And then when he's nice and cooled off, we'll put him back over here.
Yeah. Honestly, it's also to escape any type of what's the word? Not retribution. I mean, retribution works, but like consequences of their actions. Like literally, they'll just it's almost like their own what's that? Not Secret Service. What is it when where like they uproot somebody and witness protection? It's like their own witness protection with predators.
Yep.
Well, you know, this church member, you know, they donate heavily. They pay their tithes and offerings on Sunday service. They do this and that. They read the Bible all the time. These are good people. They just made a mistake. So let's just go ahead and shuffle them around.
Yeah, one term they really like is like, so and so is not a bad person. They're just a bit handsy, or like he was just tempted by the he was just like he was just tempted by the devil. That wasn't actually him. It was just an outside
it was the
influence.
devil whispering in his ear. Yes. Oh, this is gonna be good because you know what my degree is in. Like the Association of Certified Biblical Counselors, the IFB churches demonize talking with mental health professionals. So the only person one feels that they can approach about their abuse is the senior pastor, who thinks he has all the answers despite having zero training in mental health. Let me tell you motherfucking something. Your pastor is not a mental health professional and should not have a fucking say in the problems that are going on in your life. Let me say that to anybody who's listening. They do not have actual mental health training. That is very damaging to listen to the advice of an IFB pastor.
Yep.
And I'm telling you that as somebody who has sat in that chair and went to my senior pastor and told him my problems and told him the issues that I had. And this is something I'm very, very, you guys can hear it. I'm very passionate about this. I am not playing right now. This one actually gets me. I'm a little bit, I feel my heart rate and my blood pressure rising just thinking about it.
No, that's exactly how it goes too. Is like even like for me personally, like growing up, my parents, everybody who I knew in the church, they would always talk about how psychology, about how mental health and therapy, how it's all just some ruse. Like it doesn't actually exist. It's just a way for people to make money off of you. It's like, oh, if you need to go to therapy, all you're doing is talking to somebody and paying them to listen. Like you can talk to anybody. You can go talk to your pastor. Like go talk to God's chosen leader about this stuff. And well, where a therapist will just have you lay on his couch, that the pastor will actually be able to give you biblical advice and help you to get your life right. Because if you're suffering through something, it's
must
probably
be
because
sin.
You did something wrong.
Yep.
Like you deserved it somehow. It's like you brought this on yourself. So you need to go talk to the pastor about how you can fix this. The problem with that is that if you go to your abuser about the abuse you're going through, all they're going to do is keep you in the same cycle. It's like getting shot in the leg by some, like going into the woods, being hunted by somebody, shot in the leg, and then you ask them, "Hey, you just shot me in the leg? Can you? It
you
really
give me a
hurts.
Band-Aid.
Can you fix this?" And it's like, "Well, I don't really have any medical training, but because your leg is shot, I'll just cut the whole thing off. That way you don't have to worry about it."
Yes, it's like getting an infected wound, and they just want to slap a Band-Aid on it and say that it was your fault for falling in the thorns in the first place.
Yeah. When they're the ones who pushed you into the thorn bush.
Right, exactly. That's a good way to say it. Biblical is not always the complete answer. It's not. Because Oh no, I'm not getting into that. I feel my blood pressure rising. I'm gonna move on. The result is vulnerable people who feel like isolated individuals within isolated churches, with seemingly nowhere else to go for help, and that is true. I mean, you feel like you're on an island all by yourself, and you can't go to anyone for help. You've been isolated for so long, you don't even know where to start looking for help.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times you don't even know that you need help.
Mm-hmm.
You just know that you're suffering, that you're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the situation that I was in after I got away from my family. I thought that I was fine. Like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I thought that I wasn't happy, but I didn't know why I wasn't happy. But the person who I was in a relationship with, he was able to help me like identify that I was like, no, like you're like, listen, Morgan, you're not okay. There's this and this, there's this and this that's going on. You struggle with this and this, and like you need therapy. You need to actually admit that there's these things that are wrong with you. And it was so uncomfortable. It was such a hard process to even admit that there was something wrong. Because by admitting that, I had to admit, I basically had to face the fact that the entire environment that I thought was a safe and good environment was actually extremely dangerous and harmful.
Yes.
It's like learning that your favorite food was actually a poison.
I love arsenic.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So this one's going to this one's so weird because well, I'm going to explain it afterwards. Okay. So ironically, we're still talking about isolation and such. At one moment in Let Us Pray, when one of the women tries to talk to the First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana, the church says to her, "The police are on their way. We have to ask you to leave." While the church was unwilling to call the police to report her abuse, they quickly called the police to report her presence. As a result, survivors have nowhere to go, including even to the church itself. Here's the part that I'm saying is going to fuck you up. I have been to that church.
Oh no.
I have been to the First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana, and I'm not kidding with you. I have been there. I have stepped foot and been in that church. I know, I can see the church in my brain. I know that church. How crazy is that?
That the church you've been through is in a documentary about religious abuse.
How crazy is that?
That's pretty crazy.
It is. I sat there, I went, Hammond, Indiana, wait a minute. And I started looking, I was like, oh my God. That's crazy.
That's insane.
No, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that church was tough. That church was tough to be in. Yeah, that church is.
Well, I remember I went to this church in Indiana. Also, it was one of my sisters briefly went to this college that was run by this church. It was a Bible college. And I went to visit her once, and like she didn't stay there very long because like even by our standards it like they were just insane.
Yeah.
Like certifiably insane. I went to go visit my sister at this college, and my sister has a beautiful voice. Like she has such an amazing singing voice.
Yeah, I actually remember your sister can sing very well. Very well.
Yeah. She's amazing. But she was in this church's choir, and which is also the college choir. But this church, they put such a heavy emphasis on their image and how the rest of the world saw them, because they wanted to draw more people in, that they would not have anybody who was even slightly overweight in their choir or anywhere where they would be seen by the public. So one of my sister's friends, who was also in the choir, she was a bit of a bigger girl, and the pastor put her on a very strict diet. Like, he was monitoring what she ate. He said, these are the things you're allowed to eat in the morning. You're not allowed to eat anything in the afternoon. If you're hungry at night, then you can have this kind of vegetable. And like, he put her on a very strict diet in the cafeteria. He would watch her while she ate to make sure she didn't deviate from the food plan that he had put her on. Which, if you guys don't know, controlling what somebody eats is abuse. Like, that is certifiable, that is a part of the criteria for an abusive relationship or situation.
It is.
And she was not the only one who he did this to. He monitored several, and it was all women. If a guy was a little bit overweight, he didn't have any problem with it. It was only the women. He was monitoring at least a dozen different women, like what they ate, what they put into, because he wanted them to be slim, because they were the ones who were in the choir and they had really good voices. Like, they had really, like, they could sing, but because they were up in front of the church, and if anybody who wasn't a Christian or like going to the church was visiting because of soul winning, they wanted them to be presented with something that was very visually appealing and fit conventional beauty standards.
Yes. That's exactly it. Yes. Women were meant to be seen, not heard. But only seen if they're pretty.
Yeah.
All right. So next bullet point: spanking children to create soldiers and housewives. IFB churches love to gloat about their training children through violence. While the docuseries depicts such tactics as food and water deprivation, exactly what you just said, or isolation rooms, perhaps the most common discipline tactic is spanking. The purpose of the physical pain is to break the child's will in order to make them submit to the adult's desires. And this pain is typically given by spanking kids on their butts. While there is a debate over whether or not the spanking on the buttocks can be considered a form of sexual abuse in itself, I believe that there is some sort of merit to this idea. When I was spanked at my school by my teacher as a 7-year-old, the trauma I felt wasn't as much about the spanking itself as it was about having to pull my pants down to show her my butt in the school closet. I 110% agree. I was spanked so much in church. I mean, I was abused at home. You know what I mean? I was spanked at home. I was beaten at home with, like, on my face with fists. I was hit with all kinds of different objects. You know, the normal physical abuse that normal physical children are physical children. That normal physical abuse that children will go through, like in I hate to say normal abusive homes, but I mean like non-religious homes. But I also got it doubly at school and church.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I got spanked. So much, because I was a very I was a very targeted child. I was very targeted because of who my family was, and we weren't considered good Christians. We weren't considered we were considered, you know, to be what's the word?
You were that family.
We were that family in the church. Yes, that's exactly right. So,
like, you might not know this. I don't know if I ever told you this, Foggy, but when you and I became friends, my parents did not want me to be associated with you. Like, they did not want us to be friends. Like, there were several times where they were like why do you keep hanging around that boy? It was like why do you hang out with him? Like, why are you friends with him? And I was like, because
he's got a big cock. I'm sorry. There had to be at least one joke. Ah!
My God.
I had to. I couldn't help it. It was in my brain and I had to say it. I'm sorry I broke the immersion. Wow.
I just I just face palmed so hard.
I had to. It was in my brain, and
God.
Yeah, I had to do it. It had to happen. I'm sorry. I broke the immersion, everyone. I'm sorry.
Oh
I felt God. Morgan's face fall from here. Oh
my God, that completely derailed my thought process. You brat.
Oh no. Oh goodness. You know what? That gave me the opportunity to stretch too, so I'm good with it.
Good.
Oh man. Okay, you were saying though your parents didn't want you hanging around me. They kept, why you keep hanging out with that boy?
Yeah, that boy. And I was like, because I like him. He's I think he's cool. Like we're friends. And because like you were the only person who I felt was actually honest about anything. Mm-hmm. Like you're the only one who I like when I talked to you. You were the only person who I didn't feel like I was talking to a snake. Like mm-hmm. behind like the like you know like how there's like that term, a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
A better term for a lot of people who I spoke with in IFB churches would be a snake in a person's skin. I don't know.
Yeah. No. But that really does like more justice to it than the wolf in sheep's clothing, because I don't think anybody in there are sheep. They're all it's all the same. They're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they're not sheep. They are in a way, but they're not sheep, because they all have they make the decision to be the way they are. But yeah, I mean, for me it was like for me it was the opposite. Like for the reason I enjoyed hanging around you so much is because you were probably the only one who would, for lack of a better, it's gonna sound so childish the way to say it this way, but you were the only one who was really nice to me. Like there was no like secondary emotion behind it. You weren't being nice because you wanted something. You weren't being nice because you were afraid of me. You know, you just were you, and you were nice, and you liked me for me. And for me, I was like, I'm not used to that. I was not used to that.
Well, I didn't even know anything about you when we first met. Like I didn't, like, meeting you, that was the first time I'd ever, well, that was the first anything that I ever experienced about you. Like I didn't hear anything that people were saying, that like any rumors, or like the fact that you were that boy from that family, that kind of thing, you know?
Absolutely.
But I don't know. It's
no. I see what you're saying. Let's move on. We got to get through this. Okay. By beating the child's will down, IFB adults are able to form them into their gender roles. And that's a fact. That is a fact. Faith Baptist Church, one of the churches highlighted in the Let Us Pray docuseries, divides boys and girls into two specific groups. The Baptist Boys Battalion is designed for boys to learn how to have grit, be tough, and endure hardness as a good soldier for Jesus. The Blue Denim and Lace Club is designed for girls to instill a blend of grace, truth, strength, beauty, and honor. While the boys are decked out in camouflage, the girls are wearing dresses and surrounded by balloons.
Yep.
Each group has been beaten down into the particular gender mold the men of their church desires. Oh, that's so... Oh, that makes me want to gag. Just thinking about, like... Because every single time that I see, like, men of their church and their, like, desires, I have particular faces I think about.
Yeah.
And
no, same.
and I literally think about them desiring these kids, and like, oh yes, you're gonna be so great when you're this, and I literally, it gives me chills up my spine thinking about that and thinking about that this is what we went through.
Yeah, no, like in churches, they're really, so you've mentioned a few times that term, like breaking the child down or beating them down. This is something that, like, this is an actual practice that happens in churches, and they call it breaking the will of the child. It's something that is encouraged and celebrated by the pastor, like in front of everybody. They call this is an encouraged thing to do, because if children are they're rebellious, like they don't know the difference between right and wrong, so we have to break them down so we can train them up in the correct way to be. All it is brainwashing. All it is manipulation, because if you get them when they're young, then that's like you're planting that seed. You're breaking them down into and shoving them into a mold.
Yes.
And they're gonna want to keep that shape, because if something that's been molded tries to become a different kind of shape, it falls apart.
Okay. Oh God. Ultimately, IFB pastors and parents show how their violence against children points to God's violence against children. At one point, Shop is even whittling a stick in the pulpit while saying, "I hold the knife, you submit, I hurt. You say thank you." End quote.
Yep. Yep. I remember that, because you mentioned spanking, like that. This, like what the example you just gave, just reminded me of spanking. Like it got to the point, because I you've talked about your experiences with being spanked, like how eventually just got to the point where you would just start laughing. And this wasn't just spanking. This was just like you went through a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is like, for me, I think it was that they, and this is gonna sound so bad, and I do not mean it to sound this bad, but it's just the only way I know how to describe it, and I guess we can dissect it once I'm done saying it. It's like they went too far with me. And that's not to say, and this is why I'm dissecting it, that's not to say they didn't go too far with everyone else. They did. They put their hands on these kids. It's wrong. They've went too far. But for me, it was so often. It was so often. It was basically, especially when I got home, it was a daily beating. I would just, but like, take my clothes off, ready for the daily beating. It's time. Yeah, eventually I just became cold to it. It became exactly, but I became a very cold person as a result of that.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where like it was not a threat to me anymore, and that's another reason why the church hated me so much, is because they wouldn't be able to scare me with threats of violence.
Yeah, and I feel like, so like something that they would teach in churches is like, so spanking is something that is very, very common in churches. It's taught, it's meant to be a good thing, because there's this verse in the Bible talking about how beating the child with the rod will keep them away from sin. And so like one thing about independent fundamental Baptists, or IFBs, is that they take the Bible very literally. There's no interpretation. It is black and white.
Yes.
And so when they say beat the child with the rod to keep them from sin, they're going to be beating that child with a rod because they think that's the right thing to do. Yes. The only thing scarier than someone who's manipulating for their own personal gain is somebody who fully believes that the abuse they're doing is for a good cause. And that is what a lot of IFBs That's the kind of people they are. They don't see anything wrong with it. They think they are actually helping you. They think that they are completely right and that they are
godly. They think that they are in God's will. They're doing this to please God.
And that is so incredibly dangerous. That is like that they are. Oh, probably shouldn't say that, but it is incredibly dangerous because. And
I knew what you were about to say, but I agree 100%. No, yeah, you're right. And I knew what you're gonna say. You don't have to say it, but I know. Just know that I knew what you were gonna say.
Okay.
Yes.
But yeah. So because children are always spanked, one thing that they teach in Sunday schools to kids is that it's like, you know how your parents will spank you if you do something wrong, or if you start sinning, your parents spank you because they love you, and God will do the same thing. Like he doesn't necessarily come down and spank you, but he will punish you to try to bring you back onto the right path. And so like there was this picture that one of the Sunday school teachers made, and what she would do is like in a lot of Sunday schools, she would hold it up, and the picture was it showed God up in heaven standing over this small child, like it was like very very teeny tiny little person, the teeny tiny child in front of this massive like silhouette figure that's supposed to be God, and he's holding a paddle, he's holding a rod, you know, like for spanking. Is like the way that God punishes you, like with sickness or with poverty or with this or that or isolation, loneliness, like all these different things, that is God's version of spanking.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes. Ugh. Okay, next bullet point. We got this one more, and then 2 more. So 3 left. Oh man,
I'm very curious about this.
So, scaring survivors with the threat of hell. I remember being told at 4 years old that I was so sinful I deserved to burn in hell for eternity, and my 2-year-old brother was in the room at the time. I just remember being a kid and dreaming of burning in hell, like burning in hell for eternity. When abusers start to fear that they may be reported to the police, they use the children's compassion for their neighbor against them in order to protect themselves. One abuser says, "If we call the authorities, then the church will be investigated. We could lose the Christian school, we could lose the bus ministry." All that is code for the idea that those whom the church is reaching will go to hell one day if sexual abuse is reported. And that's a fact. That's exactly it. I don't know how many times, oh my gosh, that exact conversation I've had. So, for anybody who doesn't know, and I'm very open about it, I talk about it, anybody who asks me, or if they ask me for like advice on how to get through it. I was sexually assaulted as a child in the church. At like 4 years old until I was well past 5 years old. And so these, and it scarred me, and it gave me a lot of trauma, and gave me a lot of issues growing up. And I would try to have conversations, you know, like I said before, with the pastor and with different men in the church. And these are the kinds of things they would say to me. You know, no, we can't go through the authorities. This is something we can handle in church, because if you do that, we could lose our credibility in the community. We could lose the school. We could lose the bus ministry. All this different stuff that they were worried about. But instead of the life of a 4-year-old boy that had been ruined and corrupted. And it was one of those things where I just felt so powerless, and I felt so, and this is like, I'm not just talking about like when I was 4 and 5 years old, you know, I'm talking about I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm 15, 14, 13. I had these conversations. And these are the things that I was told. You know?
Yeah.
These are unforgivable sins that if you went to the authorities, that's a sin to go to the authorities and report the church when we're doing so much good in the world. You can't blame the entire church for what one person did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But they're perfectly fine with judging an entire people based on one.
Right.
It's another double standards. Like IFBs, they are filled to the brim with double standards. It's okay for them to do something, or it's not okay for other people to do something to them, but it's fine if they do it to other people.
Mm-hmm.
If they are the victim, then it's wrong. Yeah. A lot of messed up stuff.
Yes, absolutely. It's real tough. I'm gonna do this last one, and I think we can wrap up the article, and then just kind of talk about our own personal stuff and like how we were able to come through it and, you know, help ourselves.
Okay.
So the last bullet point, and you are gonna be like, ugh. Yes, the last bullet point: come out from among them and be separate.
Oh my God, not that.
One of the IFB's favorite passages in the Bible to quote is 2 Corinthians 6:17, which states, "Wherefore come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord." So perhaps one of the greatest frustrations in Let Us Pray was not only seeing the abusers go from IFB church to IFB church to IFB church, but watching the survivors go from church to church. Watching the survivors go from church to church as well, right? So another frustration is seeing survivors go from IFB churches to seemingly less extreme SBC churches that hold the same theology and are mired in the same abuse scandals. If there's one encouragement, it would be to nudge to listen to the one passage that always was used to keep us in. Come out from among them. It's time to stop going from one conservative church to another. It's time to separate ourselves from them. I agree with that. You know, use their favorite passage and throw it back in their face. You know, we are gonna come out from among you and be separate from you. That's a good way to end it. So it says, no matter how dark and scary things may feel within the IFB Dark Tower, there's life outside their walls. Losing that space may be terrifying when it's all you know, but the air is fresh outside, and God can be experienced as a father outside. And the last thing it does is quote, one of the victims inside the thing says, all these things I was so scared, like if I say anything, I will lose all this. What I didn't realize was that all that stuff I needed to lose. It was toxic, and what I gained was the freedom to speak out, and I gained so much more than that as well. And that's the end of the article.
Really good article.
Absolutely.
I really like all the what's the word? The quoted, like all the quotes.
Yes.
That they included, like all the references that they put in there, because so many of those things are verbatim what things that the both of us have heard growing up.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's crazy how many of those points that I had completely forgotten about until you said them. Like there were so many things that like enticing people to come onto the bus by making it some sort of spectacle or some kind of event. I had completely blocked that out. Like I had that didn't exist in my brain until you had said it.
Isn't that crazy to think about how much and it was the same thing with me for soul winning. Like I had forgotten about that and the fact that I used to do that as a kid. I used to do that as a teenager. And like thinking back on that, like it's just crazy to think about the fact that I had just blocked that out of my memory and that it was just completely gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what did you think?
Very, very good article.
Informative.
It really is. I think that there needs to be it needs to be talked about more because like what I was saying at the beginning of this stream / podcast, like this episode was how isolating going through this can be, because it feels like at the same time so normal, but also such a unique position to be in. You feel like nobody is the right person to talk to about this. And that is after you realize that there's a problem.
Yeah. One thing I would really like to see from another article is to highlight kind of what both men and women go through in that, because I don't mean men. I really more so mean boys and girls, not men and women, because the men are the ones doing it. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean what the boys and what the girls and the teenagers are going through. Because it doesn't really talk about, it does talk about, like some of the stuff that women and children as a whole go through, but it doesn't talk about, all the stuff that they do to teenagers and that they do to teenage boys and teenage girls as well. It doesn't go into the fact that they really, for such an organization that's so focused upon being fundamentalist and being holy, they really are very focused and really harp on the whole masturbation thing. Like they're really focused on why are teenage boys masturbating? Like they just, like why is that such a hot topic in IFB churches? Like they just want to talk about.
It's really weird. It's so weird.
And they're so focused on it. And I remember being, and then like, but it's also bad at the same time because they make you to feel like these natural urges that your body has are bad, are sinful, and you're committing sin if you touch yourself, And so like you like, I'm trying not to laugh, but at the same time, like this was a real problem. It was a problem for me. It was a problem for pretty much every other teenage boy I knew. We were hormonal. We were teenagers.
You were human.
Humans. And so like you feel like while you're feeling like you're committing sin, it makes you feel guilty. It makes you feel bad. And so you want to talk to somebody about it. But then when you tell them about your struggles, they're like, well, did you read the Bible and pray? And did you pray about it? And did you think that maybe this was the devil in your ear telling you to touch yourself? It's like, this is a really weird, remember, Jesus watches you masturbate. So I was like, okay, bro, that's
like, that's a little weird, but all right then. What's really bad is like when you do actually talk to somebody about this, you tell them things that you're trying to be a good Christian, and so you're talking to them about things that you're struggling with, and then they're like, it's like, I know that what the things the person you're talking to, like this leader figure, they're like, I know that these things you just told me are very personal and embarrassing and kind of humiliating for you. I'm really glad you talked to me about this.
I'm going to talk
tell
about
the entire church.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it
stuff because it could help somebody else who's also going through this. Maybe we can use your shame to shame others who are also going through this to keep it even suppress us even more.
Yes. I'm going to talk about it. I know this was a very private and very embarrassing conversation for you to have. I'm going to talk about it on Sunday service. I hope that's okay. Even if it's not, I'm not going to tell you that I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it.
Yep. This is something that my dad would always do because if anybody who's listening doesn't know, my dad was a pastor. So like I'm a preacher's kid.
To be clear here, his dad was not my pastor.
No.
So the things that I talk about where I was saying like I'm talking to a pastor about these things, that was not Morgan's dad who talked to me.
No, it was not. My dad was one of the people who people would go to in this church. Like my dad was basically what's called a deacon. They are kind of like the mini pastors, like the second in commands of the church, like the church staff, if you will. And they're all men, of course, because
the board
they
of
have to be men. Yes, exactly. And so my dad was one of the people who people would go to when they were struggling with something. Like he was one of the advisor people. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So my dad would do this when like in our church. He would if my siblings or if we did something wrong, first of all, he would spank us for it, of course, like at home. There were a couple times where he would just spank us in front of the church. And I can't tell you how humiliating that was. But there would be times where we would do something wrong and then we would be like, I'm so sorry. Like, and we would pray about it, and quote unquote, get right with God. And the next service, I would tell the entire church about whatever it was and use us as examples. And then I remember telling my dad, I was like, why did you do that? Like, that wasn't nice. Like, why? Like, that was really embarrassing. And he said, well, you're being a really good example of what not to be. And I feel like if when we talk about this and use you as an example to the rest of the church, it can help those who are also struggling with this. Like me talking about this and using you as an example, your embarrassment is serving as a shining light to avoid to help help keep somebody else from stumbling.
That is so sick. That's so sick. Ew, yucky. I need to shower now.
Yeah. But for you, Foggy, how did do you still feel any of what you went through as a kid now as an adult, or like how did you I guess move on, or like what is your what would you recommend to somebody who's trying to move on from this kind of situation?
So for me personally, I left home at 17. That's what I did, because I couldn't take the abuse anymore. I finally reached a breaking point and finally had enough, and I left. Which in my case is a bit of an extreme because I was in such an extreme abusive household anyways. So like at least some kids are safer at home. I was not. I was
gonna say, you didn't only have to deal with the religious trauma, you had a home situation.
I had
also.
a broken home situation. So I just got it double bad, and so I finally had enough of the abuse. I couldn't take it anymore. I had a mental breakdown, and I left. And I never went back. Which, funny enough, in the next just couple of days after I left is when I met Sylvie. for me, I had a lot of issues afterwards. And one of the biggest things that I had issues overcoming was that I did not know that the world was so much different than I was taught that it was. I was always taught that the world was evil and that I needed to separate myself from it and be different.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, this is going to sound funny to even say it now, but like, I was taught that, like, for instance, like, gay people were evil and that they reveled in their evilness and that they enjoyed living in sin.
I'm gonna come get you, Foggy.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious to say that now. But you know, when I finally switched over to public school, I realized that was not the case at all. Like, I could not believe that I ever believed that for a second, you know? And I never really subscribed to the whole gay people are evil ordeal. Excuse me, really? Because the fact of the matter is there are multiple people in my family who are just straight up gay. I mean, I was named after my uncle who was gay. And it was never a problem with my family to be gay or to associate yourself with gay people. Like, that's one thing. My family had a lot of problems, but one thing that was never like shied away from or like it was never like a problem was being gay. And most people know this about me as well. I am pansexual. So I'm kind of gay a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Just a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
You have a garnishing of Le Gay.
Le Gay? Le Gay by Armani.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, like, I can't believe that it was ever a thing where you know, I thought, wow, people who go to public school are evil. People who go to this and that are evil. People who vote for a certain candidate are evil. And for me, getting away from it was the first big step. Just 100% cutting ties with everything and everyone in that. Even if I had friends, you know, in that, I cut ties with them. I completely stopped talking to them. And that's not to say that they were bad people. They were going through the same abuse as I was. They were the same age as I was. But I couldn't stomach looking at them.
Yeah.
Because it would remind me of, well, me. And so I instead completely, like I said, I had a mental break, and in that I decided to turn over a new leaf and start becoming a sponge and absorbing information and, you know, reading and trying to relearn life essentially.
Yeah.
From scratch. And it worked. It worked for me. But also it never helped with my depression. It never helped with my anxiety of never feeling good enough, never feeling comfortable in my own skin, never feeling like I had a release, I guess, like a way for me to let everything out. And that even continued into my 20s. And it took years of going to therapy and talking to a therapist about my problems and issues and realizing that I was a victim of, you know, sick, twisted men's fantasies and their that I was a victim of abuse in all kinds of different ways. and being able to come to terms with it and, when I started talking about it openly, I actually started having conversations with people who, they would say, thank you for being so brave and opening up about this stuff. It really helped me. And that's kind of when I started to realize, like, hey, maybe not that this stuff was acceptable or that I'm glad it happened to me, because I'm not, but at least something can come out of it in the sense of I can help other people who are maybe dealing with the same thing. And that's technically what we're doing now by putting the information out there.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's catching everything up to now.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important to talk about this, is that it lets people know that other people have gone through this. Like, you're not alone in being the only one who has gone through this kind of situation or this kind of trauma. Maybe not exactly, maybe not like point for point, but something very similar. And talking about it, like, just knowing that you're not alone, that there are people who have gone through this and there are people who've gotten out the other side of it, can be extremely helpful.
110%. I agree with that. What about you, Morgan? How did you come to terms with everything and work through everything and figure out, how to be you, essentially?
I feel like it took me a bit longer than it did for you. Just, I don't know. There's one thing that people have always told me, is that I'm very stubborn, and that includes things that I believe, so I don't let go of things easily. And so these beliefs that I had as a child and as a teenager, like basically growing up, I held on to those very, very tightly. And even after I left home, I still considered myself Christian. I don't anymore, but like after I left home, because I knew that there was a problem. I knew that what was going on wasn't right or wasn't okay. I still did consider myself a Christian for a long time, for years. But I think that the main thing that helped me get through and like admit that I didn't actually truly believe that was the fact that I was gay. And I mean, like, growing up, like what you were saying, is we were, my family, we were all taught that gay people were awful. Like, if you're gay, that means you're actively choosing to go against God. Like, gay people are at the forefront of the people, of the devil's army who's marching against God and all that. And because therapy was so demonized, I never even had the thought of going to therapy. Like, it was recommended to me a few times by like coworkers or other people, and I was like, no, no, like therapy is for like weak people who don't know any better. Like, therapy is for people who just want to throw money away and feel like they're doing something helpful for themselves. I'd say that the best thing that happened for me to actually heal from like the religious trauma was one of the relationships that I was in, because the person who I started dating, we dated for almost 6 years, and he was the one who told me, like, who was able to point out, I mean, obviously we were dating for so long, so he got to know me, but he was the one who was able to point out things that were not okay, that I thought were normal. Certain behaviors, certain prejudices. I had a lot of sexist tendencies because of growing up in a church where like men are always painted in a superior light. For a while, I actually bought into that. But he was the one who kind of helped me realize, no, that's not okay. And I was like, what? It's not? Like, what? And then I guess like one thing led to it. It kind of snowballed into I had a few mental breakdowns actually. And finally I went to therapy, and I was like, wow, this is actually really uncomfortable. And I was like, well, maybe that's good. Maybe that's a good thing. I'll stick with it for a while and see what happens. And I'm really glad that I did. So I would say therapy, but also just having someone who is willing to call you out on your bullshit. Like, having somebody to call you out when you're doing something wrong is one of the best things you can have. I feel like that's the sign of a true friendship, is someone who will help you even when it's uncomfortable for you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I asked myself a lot of questions too. Like, is the person who I am now someone who I'd want to actually be around, like who I'd want to spend time with? And I was like, no, not really. Like, I think I'm kind of a jerk. And so I started working on that and tried to become someone who I was more comfortable with, like living with.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of questions too, like if we're the ones who are in control of right and wrong, then what role does God serve? You know? And it's like, well, if God doesn't exist, then like, how do we know what's right from wrong, and like our morals? And I was like, well, it's like, what proof do we have that God even does exist then? And it was just a lot of, I guess,
world breaking, worldview shattering discoveries.
Pretty much.
I get it. I'm with you. It was that way for me too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But well, yeah, I'd say that for anyone going through this, when don't be afraid to think outside the box that you were placed in. It's okay to have your own opinions. It's okay to have your own feelings. It's okay to be human. It's okay to feel things and to think things. You're not wrong for feeling or thinking things. You are a person. You deserve to be like a fully fleshed out person.
Absolutely.
If we were meant to live in a box, then we would have been born in a box. We would have come with a little nice Amazon package and tape and all that stuff, but we're not.
Yes. I would say it's okay. You need to realize that what happened to you is not your fault. It's okay for you to feel, those emotions, even if somebody around you is telling you that it's not. And it's okay to have questions and to ask those questions, because that gets you closer to the truth, and staying in the status quo does nothing for you but keep you miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say to people who are going through religious trauma. And
go to therapy.
There's a way out. No, but really, like you say that, but like therapy was the biggest tool for me to finally be able to let go of the shit. The really terrifying shit that kept me up at night, like the threat of hell, for instance.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely try therapy. Especially when you get somebody who actually cares and understands the human brain and wants to help you. That shit is a revelation.
Yeah.
To say a funny Bible word.
Revelation. But no, like therapy is definitely one of the most helpful things you can do. Like, therapists are just doctors for your mind. Like, if you got physically hurt and you needed medical care, you would go to a doctor, and they would check you. They would look you over. They would ask questions about your background, medical history, that kind of stuff, to get to know what they can and can't do, like what would be helpful, what would not be helpful. Therapists do the same thing. And if my mental state when I first went to therapy was reflected in like on my body, I would have been bleeding out. Like, I was mentally bleeding out, and therapy was the thing. Therapy was the doctor that stitched me back together and put me in rehab. Same.
literally the exact same. I just can't say enough. But I think we're out of time for the recording. So I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Okay. I'm just going to say anybody who needs help, reach out to a professional. There's nothing wrong with doing that and nothing wrong with admitting that you need help. And you're not alone. Yes. We have gone through it. There's millions of people who have gone through it. And if you need support, you know, or you need mental health help, reach out to a professional and get that help, because you will thank yourself down the road.
Yep. Absolutely agree.
All right. Well, I think this is a good place to stop the episode. Morgan, as always, my partner in crime, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for the great conversation. I will be uploading this to Spotify either today or late tomorrow night, when you guys will hear it. But if you don't already, give us a follow on Spotify. Follow us on Twitch. You can find me on that there social media all over, Foggy LeBeau. And you can also find Mr. Morgan Coffee Bean, Morgan _ Coffee Bean, or Morgan _ Bean at that there social media. Anything else to add, Morgan, before we sign off?
I don't think so, but I really enjoy our talks, and thanks for talking with me about all this stuff.
As per the usual, always enjoy it. Alrighty, we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.